News 46 is brought to you by Bees Embroidery and Garment Printing, specializing in custom and personalized decoration of gifts, garments, and more. Call 775-727-9444. News is also brought to you by J.K. Nelson Law. Call 727-9900 today for your free consultation. If you need a lawyer, you need Nelson.
Two people and their animals escape a home fire, and a 22-year-old is arrested following reports of inappropriate behavior. News 46 starts now.
You're watching KPVM News 46 with Deanna O'Donnell. News 46, local coverage you can count on.
Emergency crews respond to a home fire. It's Wednesday, August 15th. I'm Deanna O'Donnell. Well, the doorbell camera showed fire investigators just what happened that caused a home on the south end of Pahrump to catch fire. Fire Chief Scott Lewis said that the device saved the video to a cloud, which shows the homeowner smoking on the porch, and then a half hour later the home starts to smoke. That's because somehow the cigarette was not extinguished correctly. It took about 45 minutes after that for the fire department to be called. By that time it was too late to save that home. Thankfully, the residents and their animals were able to get out almost unscathed.
Just after 5:30 p.m. we received a report of a fully involved structure fire. As we were responding, we were notified that the occupants were out of the structure, but there was an initial report that someone had been injured from smoke inhalation during their egress from the house. So we arrived on location. We found heavy fire conditions across the front of the dwelling. It was deeply into the attic space and the living space. So we established a command post. We did our scene size up risk assessment. We found out and determined that everybody was out. We did have 2 people that required medical assessment. We assigned the medics to those folks. We commenced suppression. We used what's called a blitz fire, which is a portable monitor at the front, knocked down the main body of the fire, so the crews were stretching their hand lines as the blitz fire was knocking down that fire. Then they got prepared and went into the inside the house and finished the suppression. Apparently, the fire is a result of improperly discarded smoking materials, and when it commenced, the fire began on the front porch. The reason we know that is because there was a surveillance device that allowed us to watch the sequence of events leading up to and including the fire progression. That fire burned approximately 30 minutes before it was discovered. After discovery, there was approximately another 10 minutes before we were notified of the incident. The only challenges we had were Homestead Road is under construction. While it didn't greatly impede us, we had to slow down a little bit, obviously, for our trucks. But the biggest issue that we had was, again, this extended period of time before it was actually detected and reported. It was a manufactured dwelling, and it did sustain a heavy damage across the front and into the interior space in the living room area. There was some personal property on either end in the individual bedrooms that was still somewhat salvageable, but a lot of heat and smoke damage throughout.
There were some reports that maybe the animals also were safely removed from the home.
There were all the animals. There were no injuries other than ones we talked about. Everyone refused medical transport. We briefly assessed 2, but again, they weren't transported and the animals were safe. They were placed into a nearby detached garage.
We've had a few structure fires start because of improperly discarded smoking materials. Can you give some advice on what that actually means?
Yeah, I know people have their designated areas they like to smoke. Make sure you place them in cans or containers that aren't going to combust, and make sure that there's no nearby material that can also ignite.
Because sometimes when they put them in those cans or containers, there's other material still in there, so it can start a fire.
It can, and absolutely. So just do everything prudent to make sure that they're extinguished appropriately, whether there's a small container of water there, something along those lines, and make sure all the combustible materials are away from the air.
Nye County Sheriff's Office deputies are investigating a case in which 2 teens say a Pahrump man touched them inappropriately. Jonah Lee has been arrested for lewdness with a minor under the age of 14 and lewdness with a minor under the age of 16 years old, attempting to lure a child with use of computer technology for sexual acts. According to the declaration of arrest, police were dispatched to a home on Blagg Road here in Pahrump in reference to a child molest call. Upon arrival, they met with the reporting party, who advised that their daughter had snuck out of the house the night prior and was returned home by deputies. Upon searching her room, they discovered a tablet with very concerning messages regarding a 22-year-old boy that had been around. They discovered several concerning messages about a 22-year-old boy. Police spoke with the 13-year-old juvenile, who advised that she had been over an individual named Jonah Lee's house with another female who was approximately 14 years old and several other juveniles. While at Lee's house, she said that he tried to touch her sexually, and she heard about another female that was there that he did touch sexually. The other female was approximately 14 years old. Police made contact with the 14-year-old, who admitted that she witnessed Jonah trying to touch the 13-year-old on her outer thigh and heard him asking if he could. She told him no. The 14-year-old victim also said that there was another incident in June when she was at a friend's house where Jonah had touched her inappropriately. While searching the 13-year-old's phone, they advised that they located several messages from Jonah Lee indicating that he had been talking to the female and told her he wished to have a sexual relationship with the child. The two females also said at one point they were given alcohol at his residence. When police made contact with Jonah Lee, he allegedly admitted to having both juvenile female victims and other juveniles at his home. He also allegedly told police that he was kissing the neck of the 13-year-old in an attempt to get her in the mood and rubbing her private areas. He admitted that he knew that the female was 13 years old. Officers say that Lee further admitted that he did send Facebook messages attempting to get the child to sneak out of her house to come to meet him. Jonah Lee was arrested and transported to the Nye County Sheriff's Office Detention Center. Well, police and Child Protective Services are called in for a Beatty family. We'll tell you about that after this break.